here are things that people can say, that's like what you've done before, and I can actively, aggressively avoid them and steer away from them, or I can say, what do I want to do? What would I like it to be? The characters come so much from people that we've known and from little aspects of ourselves, and the setting is so familiar to us, and then there's sort of thematic stuff that's personal to us, and I just don't think there's any way that I would find a script that would mean as much to me. Almost every character in any movie I've ever made is based on somebody in real life or based on a combination of real people. So even if I take it to a slightly odd place, to me those are all real people, and they're characters that mean something to me beyond that. I'm not interested in the quirks. I'm interested in the whole sum of the character. Whatever is coming from my imagination is probably, inspired by my background and my own whatever psychology or something. So I'm sure that without me controlling it or choosing to, I'm in the movies.
Well, I mean, are you feeling after these 15 years or so that there is a theme or a sense of what a Wes Anderson movie is, or is that an outside perception?
Well, it's probably better for me if it stays an outside perception, because the more I think about it, the more confused I get. I think, but that definitely I try to. I have the choice of saying, here are things that people can say, that's like what you've done before, and I can actively, aggressively avoid them and steer away from them, or I can say, what do I want to do? What would I like it to be? And I have these choices with this part of the story, and this one feels like the most powerful to me, or the most meaningful to me, but it also reminds me a lot of a scene between Gene Hackman and Angelica Houston, or something. And I have tended to say, I think I would rather just do what I like, and accept that there might be some very clear threads and things that are going to connect my movies together, and that will be okay with some people and annoying to other people, I guess. The thing that got me my first, the chance to make a feature film was I had made a short film. Owen Wilson and we went to school together, and we had written a script, and we made in fact we thought we were making a feature. We had a few $1,000s that we'd borrowed from our fathers, $4,000 I think, and we started shooting our movie, and we ran out of money, and we'd only gotten 10 or 12 minutes of the movie, but we just called that a short, and we showed that to some people. We managed to get that in the right hands, and that was how I got the chance to direct a movie.
You knew immediately, no, I'm not going to do it like that. I want to do it this way.
Yes. Well, you mean doing Bottle Rocket?
Doing Bottle Rocket, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing. I feel like I was never more confident in my life than when we made that film. Yeah. And never less confident than when we screened it. The first time we screened it was part 2 of my life, because up to that point, my attitude was, just wait till they see this.
Right.
And a lot of people were, does this story hold together, or do people going to understand why these boys are acting like this? And I was like, I think they're going to understand. It's pretty funny. And then we screened it you've heard me tell this many times, I suppose, but
maybe they
relive it.
Yeah.
Yes. We screened it in Santa Monica at the AMC 17 or something like that on the 3rd Street Promenade.
For an audience.
For an audience of 400 people. And as the reels unspooled, I was sitting in the back row with all the studio executives, everybody, and I began to see people leaving, and they were leaving in groups. People don't go to the bathroom in groups. They're not coming back. They take their coats. And it became, really excruciating. At a certain point, I left, I tried to be very discreet about it because I didn't want to add to the Exodus feeling, but I also couldn't take it. And I watched. I went up to the projection booth and watched, and they just left all through the film, and it was really a miserable thing. But I remember afterwards we had the audience cards, the reactions, and they just you get the SUCKD. That's the sort of thing you had, and a lot of things where favorite whatever none, one after another, but I remember that we were going through it, we were kind of analyzing it. Everyone's feeling bad for me, that I won't be able to do this with my life, and then I remember then I got one of these, and it was like a outline of a dissertation. This girl had sat there a lot longer than everybody else, and she'd written a whole thing, and she quoted things, and she said this stuff, and I was like, and I remember in the room I was like, this is our audience. There was literally one positive thing, and I didn't get I was like, she's getting everything. A few years later, several years, like 6 years later, I was at like some kind of function, and this girl, some kind of film thing or it's a DGA thing or something, and this girl afterwards introduced herself to me and says, I was at your screening in Santa Monica. I was like, I know who you are. I know exactly who you are. She was uncomfortable. She wasn't sure what I was talking about. No, I know you. We made Rushmore in my high school. So the strongest association for me is being back in class, essentially, literally in the same classrooms. And it's the only it's one of the few experiences I've had where we had written these scenes, but all these scenes, I was picturing the exact spots where we shot it. I didn't expect to shoot the movie in Texas even. And in fact, at one point, we had found a school in Scotland that we thought might be better. We were looking all over the place. In the end, the thing that probably strikes me the most forcefully when I think back on it is just that I went home.
Secret, I don't know. I think you just gotta find something you love to do and then do it for the rest of your life.
Looking back, I don't even know how we managed to get Rushmore made or why, because, Bottle Rocket, we'd spent many years making this movie. Well, virtually no one saw it. Then Rushmore was more expensive and maybe even a bit stranger, and yet it seemed to just happen. I think it was just lucky. But I guess also, we did spend we spent years working on the movie, putting it together. But I feel like when we made Bottle Rocket, I felt a confidence about what I was doing that I never really had again. Once we showed the movie publicly and I saw that people could reject this completely, which is exactly what happened, that changed my perspective permanently about what it's like to bring a movie to an audience and what you can expect. But it didn't make me change how I went about doing Rushmore. Once Bottle Rocket was finished and suddenly someone said, we'll do another one, then that was what I was really focused on.
Because it's ideas of characters studies come up, scenes come up, moments come up, and it kind of evolves into the plot, correct?
Well, it depends. Most of these movies I've done, it would probably be an exaggeration to say they have a plot, any one of them. This new one, I think, does. Yeah. This one actually has, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and it's all connected. But I would say that to make a movie, to make a good movie, in most cases, you need a lot of ideas, and you need a lot of material, and it's not, and to keep it going for 90 minutes or 95 minutes or 2 hours or whatever it is, it's got to hold a lot of information and a lot of feeling, and and observations about whatever it is. So for me, even if you have a plot, you've still got to fill it with things, and you've got to build up something, and you've got to kind of research and gather ideas. And
you have to write your own scripts. I mean, so far, everything you've made, you've written.
Yeah,
it's 2.
Right, it's 2. But so I haven't read anything that felt. I mean, these are pretty personal movies. Like this movie, Rushmore, is very personal to me and Owen.
What does that mean, personal?
It's got so many little things that connect to our own lives, The characters come so much from people that we've known and from little aspects of ourselves. And the setting is so familiar to us. And then there's sort of thematic stuff that's personal to us. And I just don't think there's any way that I would find a script that would mean as much to me.
You say thematic stuff that's personal to us. What do you mean?
I mean, like, the kid that the movie's about is someone who, he doesn't try, like in high school, one of the central things is to be cool.
Yeah.
And this is a kid who's not cool at all, but he has his own ideas of the way he wants to be, things he wants to kind of accomplish. And he has this great enthusiasm for those things and this kind of drive about it and a resilience. And I sort of that's something that means something to us. I mean, I like people who are kind of unusual characters and kind of originals.
And so did it feel different for you? I mean, did you make mistakes perhaps in thinking this would work and it didn't, or that it wouldn't work and something did?
Well, the thing I definitely didn't anticipate, I thought we've finished the script. And we had finished. We had been done for a while. We'd done lots of revising and finessing, and it was done. And I thought we're going to now record the actors, and that's going to be done. And then we're going to storyboard it, and then we'll shoot it. But everybody told me, when you do an animated film, I think with most animated films, they start storyboarding and doing temporary recordings before they've even finished the script necessarily, right. And they keep revising the script with the storyboards and working through it. And I thought, well, that's not how we're doing it because we've already got the script. But that was exactly what happened. We started rewriting. I mean, as soon as it was done, I started, this doesn't quite make sense. And all of a sudden, you have a freedom to not just edit it. Figure out how you're going to solve your problems. You can say, well, what would actually be better is if these 3 scenes were just 2 lines, and rather than they don't even have to go over here. And in fact, it might have more weight if we expanded this part of the story, and all of a sudden it becomes. For 2 years, it's being rewritten and re-recorded and re-storyboarded, and In fact, I wrote a lot of new scenes, and we added characters, and made a lot of changes. But the thing with this kind of movie is there's time to work on everything. We don't have 20 guys in a room, but I had time to to work on everything in it, because there's really 2 solid years of one form of production or another.
Dreams at all mirror what your films look like?
Well, my sleeping dreams, I don't even really remember. But my dreams, as for instance, the last movie I made, which is Moonrise Kingdom, it's called, that one I think is really based on a fantasy I had as a kid. I've drawn some things from my own childhood, but the main thing is a sort of dream I had as a child of a romance that didn't actually happen. That's really the inspiration for the movie.
I often ask people, if we were to take all of their body of work and put it together and then look at it, what would that tell us about them? And so I wonder, with your body of work, if I put it together, would I have a better understanding of who you are?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know if you'd have a better understanding, but you'd have a lot of information about me, I think, anyway. However one would interpret it, I don't know. But I think, the movies I've made, which now a lot, I mean, I've been doing this stuff for years and years. I think I've made 8 or so movies. They're all these movies are made up from scratch. They're not adapted from anything. So and although I've always worked with a writing partner, different people on each movie, there's some degree to which whatever is coming from my imagination is probably, inspired by my background and my own whatever psychology or something. So I'm sure that without me controlling it or choosing to, I'm in the movies. I think that's me responding to somebody criticizing me for making the same movie over and over again, probably, which I get. And I think it's, it's because I deal with the similar themes, but I don't usually think about themes when I'm writing. And there are probably connections among the kinds of characters. I use a lot of the same actors over and over again. And I guess there's visual stuff that you can link from one movie to another. A lot of things that I do the same way every time. But it's just the way I like it, and I feel like it's a mistake for me not to do it, not to do that. If I feel like I have an idea what the best thing is for the story, I would just want to follow that, even if it does mean that people can tell it's me.
Here's what else you said. People who like weird people, I guess, are more likely to like my films than people who call people weirdos.
Yeah, I stand behind that.
You like weird people, yes.
It's kind of hard for me to understand me in the way I phrase that, but I think I get it, and I agree with it.
Yeah. You like people.
I would say
people who call people weirdos, not people you like.
I would say. I'm sure I call people weirdos all the time, but I think, but probably what I'm in a very odd way trying to get at is that I don't think like people always refer to my movies as quirky, and they think the characters are weird. And for me, I can understand that point of view about them, but almost every character in any movie I've ever made is based on somebody in real life or based on a combination of real people. So even if I take it to a slightly odd place, to me those are all real people, and they're characters that mean something to me beyond. I'm not interested in the quirks. I'm interested in the whole sum of the character.
If your movies are weird, people are weird.
Yeah. Yes.
The first idea for the movie had nothing to do with the setting. It had to do with this one character played by Ralph Fiennes, Monsieur Gustave in our story, and he is inspired by an old friend. Hugo, my friend Hugo, and I made the script together, and our friend was the model for this character. And immediately, as we started writing it, I began to think, I have wanted to work with Ralph Fiennes for some years. And I started thinking I would love to write this part for Rafe. In the end, I really don't know who else could play this, and nor would I want to see anybody else play it. But that's what it began with. And then we combined that with my kind of feeling that I would like to do something that was in our own invented version of Eastern Europe. I had not traveled around, so I had not spent this kind of time in that part of the world before. And when we had written the script, we had written the story where there's this hotel in the 30s, and it's at its peak, and it's at its most popular. And then in the 60s, let's say, the place has fallen out of favor. It's kind of falling apart, and it's in decline. But traveling around in Eastern Europe, going to places like the Hotel Gellert in Budapest, in particular, and traveling around in Czech Republic to Karlovy Vary and in Prague, we realized that we were missing something, which is a layer of history in the architecture. Communism is very present when you visit these places. You see the old place and the newer place inside it, and then the newer period inside of that. All these layers still exist. So we changed our story a bit without really rewriting it. It was in the design and the architecture of our movie. We sort of automatically started to build in something about the history through the architecture.